Maybe.
Welcome to the Gita in Action podcast. My name is Radha, and I'm here with our family of seekers, and we're reading through the Bhagavad Gita verse by verse. And we finished chapter 10. The last session, we finished chapter 10. So today we'll be doing a nice little summary review of chapter 10. And before we start, Stella, can you say our prayers for us?
Sure. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jana Jana Salakaya Chakshuranga Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Panchakopa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Ki Jai.
Try. Thank you.
All the gathered Jai.
Thank you. Thank you. So today we're going to zoom out and walk through the flow of chapter 10 together. And instead of going verse by verse in detail, we'll do more like a summary. And the goal is to really see how everything connects, how one idea leads to another, and how the chapter builds towards this clear, cohesive message. So in this episode, we'll move through the chapter in 5 main sections. So the first section, verses 1 through 7, is where Krishna establishes his position as the source of everything. And then in 8 through 11, these are like the nutshell verses of the Gita. They're like the essence of the Gita. They're considered the heart of the chapter of the Gita. And this is where he explains how devotion develops and how he guides and reveals himself to the devotees. And then in verses 12 through 18, Arjuna responds. And he responds with realization. And he asks Krishna another question. He asks him how to stay connected in daily life. And then this leads us to the next section, which is about half of the chapter, where Krishna really explains how he can be remembered through his manifestations throughout the world. So we went through each one of those to really try to understand the context and the principle behind it. And then the final 4 verses of the chapter are really just a summary of everything, bringing back this core idea in a simple and powerful way of Vibhuti Yoga, which is connecting to divinity through special manifestations that we see in the world around us. So we see something really special, and instead of becoming overly attracted to it or getting into a game of comparison, or we connect it to the source, and in that we're becoming connected to God. So this is a way. Yoga means connection. Vibhuti means a special manifestation. So this is a way that we're connecting to source through special manifestations. And that's what chapter 10 is all about. So what I'll do is I'll just kind of summarize each verse, and in that we'll just see the flow through the chapter. Okay, so in the first verse, Krishna begins on a very personal note. He tells Arjuna, "I'm speaking again for your benefit because you are dear to me." This is what Krishna tells Arjuna in the first verse. And this is very intentional and loving. It's not just information, it's a relationship. So what he's meant to share, or what he's about to share, is meant to guide Arjuna and bring him closer. And it's important that we see here that everything here is coming from affection and purpose. So this relationship is so important. It can't just be dry knowledge, or it won't land in the heart and grow and produce fruit. There has to be that relation, that soil that's tilled with affection and love. So then in the next verse, Krishna deepens it. He says that even the greatest beings, the demigods, the sages, they don't fully know him. Why? Because he's the source. He's a source. So Krishna's not just great, he's the origin of greatness himself. So this means that he can't be fully understood by our own effort, which is kind of humbling and reassuring at the same time. The finite can't understand the infinite. It has to be revealed. It comes through revelation, and that's directly Krishna's mercy. So any understanding that we have doesn't happen by our own accord. It's given to us through mercy. He has to decide to reveal himself. So then in the next verse 3, and if you have a Gita, you could follow along if you want a little bit, just to get some context of where we are, but you also don't need to. In verse 3, Krishna says that one who understands him as unborn, beginningless, and supreme becomes free from illusion and sin. So this isn't just intellectual, it's transformational. This is where we're really going with the Gita. It's meant to transform our hearts. It's not just something that we study to learn or to know. The purpose in even learning or knowing is the transformation of the heart. And that's where Krishna's trying to take us. Because when we really understand Krishna, the source of everything, what happens is our desires shift. We become less drawn to temporary things, and we become attracted to something higher. And this shift is just purifying naturally. So the point here is that just hearing about Krishna begins to change us. This is where the transformation starts to happen. And then in text 4 and 5, Krishna explains that all the different qualities that we experience, like intelligence, confusion, fear, fearlessness, happiness, distress, he lists a whole host of qualities. He says all these things come from him. So nothing exists outside of his arrangement. And this doesn't mean that everything is equally beneficial, but it does mean that everything is connected to a higher source. So this helps us to see that life isn't just fragmented, right, or random. This helps us to see it in relationship to him. And when we see life in relationship to God, this shift helps us respond to life with more clarity, because our goal changes. Most of us go around life trying to get more of things that feel good and less of things that feel bad. But when we can understand that everything comes from Krishna, the good, the bad, everything, our it kind of changes the destination in our GPS. We're not just trying to avoid things that feel bad and go towards things that feel good. We're understanding that it's all contributing to our growth. And in that, we are appreciative of it. We understand, some painful things are going to come to me, and we accept them as that. How can this painful experience that I'm going through contribute to my growth? How can this bring me closer to God? And then when good things come, we appreciate those things. When things that feel good come, we appreciate those things. This is pleasurable, but we still understand that this isn't the actual point of things. It's not the actual point of life. That's a very superficial way to go around life, and also a way that will subject us to just lots of ups and downs, lots of pain. Right? But when we can start to see things as everything coming from Krishna, everything contributes to our growth, then we become steady. We're not so subject to the highs and lows of life. We're a little bit more detached. They're still happening, but we're a little bit more detached from them. Then in verse 6, Krishna makes it personal. So he says everything, sages, beings, all life comes from him. So this is where we talked about a lot of times we get really interested in chasing our ancestry. Who was my grandma, my grandma's grandma, like that. Keep going up. But we should understand that our identity isn't just material. Our real root is spiritual. And so our origin is Krishna. Okay, so let's get obsessed about following that lineage. It's good to also understand your material lineage, but let's not forget about our spiritual. And then the last verse of this section, verse 7, Krishna concludes that one who truly understands his opulence naturally engages in devotion. He says there's no doubt. So this knowledge is not meant to impress us. It's meant to attract us. That's why he gives us this knowledge, to help attract us. When we realize that everything we seek comes from him, devotion becomes natural, not forced, not obligatory. It's like there's clarity. It's like, of course I want to turn towards this. So the flow so far is clear. We go from relationship. He's speaking personally. He's showing us this isn't just philosophy. It's connection. So that's the precursor, this relationship. So important. And then in that, he establishes that he's the source of everything. So this gives us this right understanding of who he is. And then we understand that understanding leads to transformation. When we understand who God is, this is when our heart really starts to transform. We have the fertile soil. We planted the seed. The seed, he's the source of everything. And now our seed starts to grow. We start to transform. Our desires and our perspectives begin to shift. And then it starts to bear fruit. Our vision expands. We start seeing everything in relationship to him. This is like our spiritual creeper, just growing. And then from that place, devotion naturally follows. It's not forced. It's this natural response. And it comes from this understanding. So this is the first section. And this is what kind of sets us up to this next section, which is what we call the heart of the Gita. These four next verses really bring home the entire essence of the Gita. Like if you don't understand anything about the Gita, understanding these next 4 verses is all you really need to know. Okay, it's really the essence. Does anybody want to share anything before we move on to the next 4 verses? Okay, let's do it then. So this is 8 through 11. And these are some really sweet verses. I'll just get right into them. Okay, verse 8. Krishna says in verse 8, he says, I'm the source of everything. Everything emanates from me. And this isn't just philosophical. It's a shift in how we see reality. We really have to kind of contemplate these truths so that they show up in the way that we move around the world. It's not just like, this is my spiritual life and I'm learning these things, and then this is my material life, I'm navigating the world. It's like, that what we are learning in our spiritual life should then influence heavily, if not determine, how we move around in the world. And that's where we're trying to get here. It's like a marrying of the two. So, and here Krishna's saying he's not saying that he just created everything and stepped away. He's saying everything is continuously resting on him. It's flowing from him. It's being sustained by him. So he is in everything, whether or not we see it or not. He's in everything. Everything that happens to us, everywhere that we go, every person that we interact with, Krishna is in everything, everyone. And again, when this understanding becomes real, when it goes from just knowledge to real wisdom in the heart, devotion naturally awakens. That's as a byproduct of this realization. Devotion naturally awakens because we understand that everything we've ever been drawn to, beauty, love, intelligence, strength, it's coming from him. And so in this, instead of chasing those things, we start turning towards the source. And this is where something deeper even happens. Because when we think about God, we're not just distracting ourselves or trying to think positive. It's not just like an escape from our life. We're actually connecting with a higher reality, with the source of everything. And it's this connection that begins to illuminate how we see life. It's like a channel that we plug into, and then it just starts to change our entire perspective. When we're disconnected, when we're not connected to source, when that's unplugged, life feels very chaotic. It feels random. It feels overwhelming. It feels like there's one thing after another with no real meaning. It's like no wonder so many people are on like anxiety medication and depression medication. I heard a statistic the other day about how many people are on depression medication. And some of these things, it's a symptom of feeling disconnected. And it's natural like that because we're not supposed to feel disconnected. So when we feel disconnected, of course we're going to suffer. Of course we're going to need medication because we're not designed to be disconnected. But somehow in our culture, in our influences, it's happened, and it's epidemic. And the result is that everything feels random, overwhelming, meaningless. It's like, what am I doing here? But when we're connected to source, the ultimate connection, when our awareness really starts to turn towards divinity, things start to feel more coherent. And we start to sense that there's an intelligence behind everything, that there's purpose, even in what we don't fully understand. And this is important because we're not going to be able to fully understand everything as much as we want to try. Why did this happen? Why did this person do this? Why am I in this situation? We're just not going to be able to fully understand things because we're finite beings. We have finite perception. We have finite abilities. So when we connect to source, we understand that we're being held, that there's a greater intelligence behind everything. And to the degree that relationship is strong, it will lift us up out of our suffering that comes from our finite understanding coupled with our with us being disconnected. And this is the recipe. Like, this is the guidebook. This is how we're meant to live. And then this shifts how we experience life. Even challenges begin to feel differently. It doesn't mean that everything becomes easy, but things feel more meaningful. Instead of feeling defeated, we start to trust that there's something deeper unfolding. Something bad that happens to us, something that is not the way we wanted things to go. We understand, okay, this isn't the way that I would have wanted things to go, but I trust that there's a bigger presence here guiding this. And I'm just waiting to see how it turns out. We have that kind of inner knowing. And when we're able to do that, we're not just like jumping in, acting out of our anxiety, messing things up more. This is what happens when we don't have this relationship. We know we're being guided, even when we can't see the full picture. And we understand, I can't see the full picture. Instead of that making me anxious, I'm going to understand that this is the way that I'm designed. And the solution is not to try harder or to act like I see the full picture, even when I don't. The solution is to accept that I'm finite. I'm not going to see the full picture. I'm not going to fully understand. That's okay because I'm connected to God. And God sees the full picture. God understands. God created the full picture. So I can just rest into that. And there's such a difference in consciousness when we come to this realization, because life is going to throw things at us that hurt, that are going to challenge us, that are going to make us question things. And when that happens, where are we seeking shelter? Are we seeking shelter in something that's bringing us up, even in the hard times? Or are we seeking shelter in something that's that's bringing us down, or reinforcing this idea that I'm the controller, that I can figure it out, which really just breeds more anxiety and depression, because we're actually not. And life will teach us that. So this is the progression. When we really understand everything's coming from Krishna in a personal way, not just intellectually, turning towards him starts to feel like coming home. And that's the vision that this verse is giving us. And that's where Krishna goes next in the 9th verse. Krishna shows us that what that vision looks like when it enters into the heart. So when we have this understanding, this chapter is going to help us get that understanding. We have that understanding that Krishna is the source of everything, comes into the mind. Now, what happens when it comes into the heart, when it really enters into the heart? So this is when we're making that difference between like understanding something and really realizing something, so that it shows up in the way that we live, in the way that we interact, in the decisions that we make. And so Krishna says, when somebody really understands that, when that understanding lands in the heart, devotees think of him, they live for him, they find joy in speaking about him together. This is how you know when this knowledge has landed in your heart. You think of him, you live for him, you find joy in speaking about him with others. And when we talked about this verse, we talked about our inner home. Everybody has an inner home. When your mind is not occupied, like, where does your mind go? This is your default resting place. A lot of times for me, this is my daughter or my service. But when we get really expert at this, when this knowledge has landed in the heart, that inner home where your mind goes when it's not occupied with everything else, Krishna becomes that place. This is like the goal. You're still doing everything. You're working, you're parenting, you're navigating life. But internally, there's a place you return to. It's like this relationship, a place that feels grounding, familiar, safe. Maybe you have this with like your significant other. But Krishna's offering this to us. This is the real home. It's wonderful to have healthy relationships, but let's not forget where our real eternal home is. With this infinite, all-knowing, all-powerful, all-loving being that seeks relationship with us. So bhakti is really the gradual relocation of that inner home from things of this world to Krishna. And what happens when that becomes our inner home, transformation is inevitable. And we see that in the normal, in our real, like our material lives. When we have a healthy relationship, we have stability. We say this is so important to have healthy relationships, to have stability, to have that inner home. If we don't have that inner home, or if we don't have that in our lives, then again, we're constantly anxious. We feel like the rug's going to be pulled out from under us at any time. And if that goes on long enough, it's by the time you're older, you could be very anxious if you don't have some kind of stability in your life. So this is important. But Krishna's saying, if I become your inner home, how high you become. Just how elevated your consciousness becomes, how pure your heart becomes. It's like the most transformational thing. It's not just like temporary stability. It's like eternal clarity and connection and fulfillment. And then in this same verse, Krishna, he highlights something powerful. He says, devotees don't just think about him alone, they share about him. And that sharing becomes nourishing. It deepens the experience. So this is why community matters so much. It's so important. Without it, we drift. With it, we grow. So that's what this verse 9 is doing. It's showing us this heart of devotion, a life that is internally anchored in Krishna and externally supported through this shared remembrance, just like we're doing here. So it just supports our internal relationship with Krishna. Okay. So then now we're moving to text 10. This is the third verse of this 4-verse sequence of that are, the essence of the Gita. So now Krishna, he's explained the understanding, and then what happens when the understanding moves into the heart. And now he says, to those who serve me with love, I give the understanding by which they come to me. So we're moving now from the heart to the mind, from the heart to the mind. He's saying, you don't have to figure everything out on your own. You don't have to become perfect first. He's saying, if there's sincerity, if there's love, I'll guide you. So we want to start off with a little understanding, right? A little understanding that he's the source, he's the sustainer, he's our best friend, he's the shelter, he's the maintainer. And then with that little understanding, it moves into the heart. And then once it moves into the heart, then Krishna gives us more understanding. And it's like a loop. Krishna gives us more understanding. And then the realization in the heart deepens. This is the process of bhakti. That guidance that comes from within. And it's not always loud or dramatic, but it shows up as clarity. We start to make better choices. We start to we shift how we see things. And the key here is the mood. If we approach with like resistance or obligation, that we block that flow. Okay, that loop it's not going to be so effective. But when there's warmth, when there's affection, even if it's imperfect, Krishna will respond. So this is why what he said at the very beginning, that relationship is so important. Our mood that we are approaching God with. And this even changes how we understand prayer. Sometimes we pray for external results, and that's what we expect. And then if we see things line up in the way that we prayed for them, then we feel, oh, thank you, Krishna's looking out for me. But this is kind of a superficial understanding of prayer. Once we really understand relationship with God and we really trust God, we'll see something deeper. We'll see that prayer, just this relationship, just the act of praying, it gives us clarity. It gives us steadiness. It gives us perspective. That is coming directly from God. And this is because we've reached out in relationship and in prayer with God. And he reciprocates by giving us this clarity, this steadiness, this perspective. It doesn't mean he's gonna do exactly what you want and take away all of your material suffering. That might be part of your process to gain this clarity, this steadiness, this perspective, which is actually what we're all seeking as spiritual seekers. Right? We're not buying into relationship with God so that we can become better controllers. That's kind of the opposite of the point. Once we really trust God, once we really know that my life is in divine hands and that I'm not the ultimate controller and that God is, that's real relationship. And that's when we start to see this real clarity, this steadiness, this perspective. That's what we really want, right? Because that's what will make us steady in all circumstances, not just victim to the next high and low that life brings us on. And this is when difficult situations, they won't shake us the same way when we develop this steadiness. So this is like the real solution. It's not just a Band-Aid, like praying for things to go the way that I want so that I can avoid an uncomfortable circumstance. Like that's kind of a Band-Aid. But the real purpose of prayer is this connection. It connects us to source. And then that connection becomes a channel to receive this clarity, this steadiness, this perspective that can get us through anything in life. So this verse, it's about guidance. Krishna's actively helping us navigate life from within. This is his promise to us. It starts with a little bit of understanding. Whatever understanding you have moves to the heart. And then we're living for Krishna. We're thinking of Krishna. We're coming together talking about Krishna with others. And then Krishna deepens this understanding, right? And he gives us more understanding. This is the loop. I love loops. I'm an engineer. I love a loop. And then he gives us more understanding. And then the realization becomes deeper in the heart. And then in the next verse, the last verse of this section, this is where he takes it even further. He says, out of special mercy, I destroy the darkness in their hearts with the shining lamp of knowledge. And this is so personal. Krishna is saying, I remove the darkness. So we're in this loop. And as this loop is going, it starts to illuminate the heart. This means the realization, it's not something we force, it's something we receive. We have to understand that. It's special mercy from Krishna. The whole thing is functioning of special mercy from Krishna. Even if we're studying, we're reflecting, we're trying, ultimately Krishna has to reveal himself. He is like the special electricity that makes the loop work. It's not us. We can do like very, very little. But he comes in and makes it move. And he uses this image of light. When the light comes, darkness doesn't need to be removed. It just disappears. So in the same way, when Krishna illuminates the heart, confusion fades. And we start to see clearly what helps us, what harms us, what actually leads us forward. This is what happens when this is working effectively. And his mercy, it doesn't come as always come as emotional highs. Like we said, it comes as clarity, it comes as conviction. It comes as this quiet strength to keep going. Expect that there's going to be obstacles. Krishna never tells us that if you become my devotee, your entire life is going to be bright and shiny and rainbows and butterflies and you're never going to have any problems. No. In fact, he tells us the opposite. This is a place of misery. You're ultimately going to lose everything that you're attached to. It's just going to happen. This is the world that we're living in. But connect with me. And in that connection, you'll receive clarity, strength, conviction that will give you the ability to weather the storms. That's what he's offering us. And this is what he's showing us. He's not just guiding us. He's transforming us from within with this loop that's just completely illuminated, cleaning us out. Okay, so when he becomes present in the heart, just everything is brighter and more aligned. So that's where these 4 verses are taking us. Okay, understanding, devotion, guidance, illumination. And then it feeds back into itself. Understanding, devotion, guidance, illumination. And this is how the heart just becomes brighter and brighter. And how we become bright lights in our own lives and the lives of others, all through Krishna's mercy. That's what these 4 verses are teaching us. Now, I want to pause for some reflections. I see some things on the chat board. Does anybody want to share anything? No?
I can say something.
Okay, yeah, please share.
About first thing that being just a thought of being disconnected with this source that is the sunshine. You'll be in darkness. That thought, and then it is so obvious because then we can talk about this loop that you're talking about, that how if we are not connected with Krishna, and if even a small matter of discussion with somebody or something, then the mind keeps going further and further, and then we don't even realize that we are in such a bad mood or we are taking some decisions. But then if we draw our mind back here, then we are like, oh, this matter is so insignificant and I should not get into that loop. Instead of, okay, let me listen to the lecture, or okay, not if I want to listen to some other lecture, then if I'm listening to the variety of different lectures, that is more, that gives more guidance, like you're talking about understanding. Then of course it also draws us into devotion. It also gives us the guidance that we need. And eventually the illumination that you're talking about, that okay, why was I wasting time on that little petty thing? I have to do, my goals are different. I need to be on this side more focused, this side more. So that loop thing is, and like you said, Krishna gives us all this illumination, or he is the one who is giving us, oh no, I better listen to the lecture, or I go to uh, my Sunday satsang. That should, the priorities change. And all these things that we are thinking, that is in a way guidance and illumination.
Yeah.
So that is such a big thing. That
Yeah.
changes our thought process, that changes our happiness inside, that changes brings anxiety down, because we can
Yeah.
get anxious about anything so easily. And then
Yeah.
to understand that we are not the controller and all that, the source is there. Like all this war thing is happening. If we want, we can listen to the news and get more and more anxious about it and worry about it. But we don't have to do that. We can be on this side of the sunshine.
Yeah. Exactly. Because where there's light, the darkness naturally dissipates. It
Yeah.
will go away. Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have an appreciation, Radhapriti, just beautiful. One, could you put those four things in our live chat thread? I can't write them down right now.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
also,
Yeah.
what you said about the tendency to pray to be a better controller. I'm not
Mm.
sure I ever like heard it put quite that way. And wow, that just blew my mind, because it's such a great measuring stick to see how you doing there. Like,
Yeah.
to be honest with yourself, to say, whoa, was that prayer so that I could be a better controller? Like, I can think of prayers I've made that were like totally me wanting to be the better controller. Oh my God. But it's so, I mean, just to be made aware of that, that's like thank you for that illumination. And thank you, Shri Krishna. But, but to, because we do have to do that work of self-awareness, like, is this in keeping with those four verses? I mean, those four verses, wow. Thank you. I mean, I feel like, you said a lot of great stuff early when we went through them, but this just, it's just like it's beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna bring that. I hope to bring that forward in my life as a kind of like a where am I check.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Really nice. Thank you. Thank you. What do you think, Erin?
Oh, really very similar to what Shraddhanjali just shared. Like, um, yeah, that's just a beautiful phrase and thing to think about and apply to our prayers. But just thinking about lately, like expectations that I have, because I have a lot of them. And, you like how I bring those into my relationship with Krishna. Um, and, you can hear like, spiritual life is not just gonna like solve all your problems or make things easy. And it's like, yeah, I get it, I get it, I get it. But I do feel like there's still that level of expectation that, like, well, even though that's not going to happen, I am going to become more detached from that. So it's fine. And it's like, no, there's this whole process where I still have those expectations. I'm not detached and I feel like I should be. Um, so yeah, just I really love like what you're saying too. I feel like you've said the word clarity so many times, and
Yeah.
it's so subtle. And I think, and for me personally, but I also think just like our society, we're so outcomes oriented, and we're so
Mm.
like, you know, performance metrics driven, that, you know, we want the result, and like, you don't get the result, that's failure, right? And so it's just like, yeah, just such a reorientation to look at things on such a much more subtle level, because I think I can miss my own progress when
Hmm.
I'm just like, you know, I'm like, clarity, yeah, great, but like my goal is my goal.
Yeah, right.
But it's really nice to be reminded of like all those little feelings and the subtleness, like all of that is Krishna, and all of that is part of the process. And it's not just those like big mountain peaks that we're always looking at.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's really what the journey is, you know, because we're just always getting what we want. It's just kind of band-aids to the deeper problem, which is that we're too attached, and we're too attached to what we want. And we're too engrossed in this mindset that we're the controllers, and in that there's not enough space for Krishna. We're not we're not even allowing it because we've taken that spot. Yeah, so nice. Thank
Can
you.
we think that the process is the result?
Yeah, it is. The process is the result. Yeah.
Like that's what we should be looking at as the result, that we're actually in the proper process for our better happiness. And yeah.
Yeah, the relationship, the love is the goal and the process of bhakti. And the beautiful thing, it just keeps compounding on itself.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. So this brings us to this really long section in the Gita. Oh no, wait. Wow, we haven't got to Arjuna section yet. Okay, let's do Arjuna section. So after Krishna speaks these things, Arjuna responds. And this is where he responds in verses 12 through 18. You know, he recognizes Krishna as the supreme truth, you know, the ultimate source of everything. He's not just he tells him this, and it's not just flattery, it's realization. Arjuna's kind of going through his own process. You know, and so in this he's starting to understand who Krishna really is. And then in verse 14 he says, I accept everything you told me. You know, he's still not at that place where he can claim that he fully understands Krishna, but he trusts what he's hearing. And this is a good example for us. You know, it shows real faith, being willing to accept something as true, even while growing into deeper understanding. And then in verse 15, he says, only you truly know yourself, because Krishna is unlimited. So no one, again, we're finite creatures with finite understanding. That finite cannot grasp the infinite, not even the most elevated beings. So Arjuna's becoming more humble as his understanding deepens. And then Arjuna asks Krishna to explain how he exists throughout the world. He's not asking for proof, he's asking for something practical. You know, how to recognize Krishna in what we see around us. And he continues in 17, he says, how can I think of you constantly? And this is a very real question. You know, how can we stay connected in the middle of everyday life, not just in spiritual moments? Because this is one thing Krishna said in these 4 verses earlier. He says, when the realization lands in your heart, you'll think of me all the time. You'll live for me. You'll talk about me with others. So Arjuna is saying, okay, how can I do this in my real life? How is this real? How is this practical? And then finally he says, the more I hear about you, the more I want to hear. So this is this spiritual life. It doesn't become boring or stale. You know, in material life, we get stuck on a hobby for a while, and eventually we're like, you know, I used to bike ride a lot. Now I don't do that as much. Or I used to run a lot. Now I don't do that as much. Or I used to watch this on TV. I'm not so into that anymore. This is material life. We're just like lily pad to lily pad, looking for some kind of form of enjoyment, which is really just temporary relief from our anxiety and suffering. I mean, this is material life, right? But spiritual life, as understanding grows, the heart transforms. We crave more. You know, our desire just increases to hear more. So Arjuna asks Krishna these questions. after that, after those 4 nutshell verses, he says, I hear you. I'm there. I'm trying. Tell me how I can see you and everything around me. And that's what sets Krishna up for the next big section, which we're not going to go through. We went through quite a bit. This is the real takeaway of these verses, of the next 20 verses, is Krishna's teaching us how to see. Okay, Krishna gives us many examples. And in those examples, the point isn't the examples itself. Krishna's saying what Krishna's saying in these verses is whenever you encounter something exceptional, beauty, strength, intelligence, influence, he's saying, don't see that as independent of me. Don't naturally, your attention might get pulled into what stands out. You're going to notice what's impressive or what's powerful or what feels elevated. And usually people will just stop there. They'll just admire that thing itself. But Krishna here, he's redirecting that instinct. He's not asking us to suppress this attraction, but he's asking us to refine it. Refine this attraction. Okay. Oh, just one second. I can't see you guys anymore. Can you guys still see me?
Yeah,
Yes.
you're good.
Oh, you can still be. Okay. Sorry. I have this new computer and I'm still learning how to use it. And now I can't see my other screen. Sorry. Give me just 1 second. What happened here? Sorry, guys. I don't know what happened. I need to learn how to use this computer better. Man, I'm really lost. Okay, I'm going to need another minute.
Hare Krishna. Now we're all praying for you to have better control over your computer.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry, this is really, I guess I wasn't quite ready to use this computer because now I've just lost everything. How did this happen? Oh, is it here? Okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to just add, oh, here we go. Okay. All right, this should work. Okay. Okay, we're good. Okay, so he's not asking us to suppress our attraction towards these things that attract us. Right? He's asking us to refine it. So to take that moment of appreciation and trace it back to its source. So instead of getting absorbed in the expression, we begin to remember what it's expressing. This is what Krishna is telling us. The point is even of all of these things in our lives. And he's saying you don't have to step out of your life to feel connected. You don't need a perfectly controlled environment. He says the very things that capture your attention can become reminders, not distractions, but reminders. And when that shift happens, your relationship with the world changes. You can appreciate without clinging. You can admire without comparing. You're no longer trying to extract fulfillment from every experience. You're recognizing it as coming from somewhere deeper. So he's trying to change the way we relate with the world. He's not pulling Arjuna away from the world. He's training his vision within it, teaching him how to move through life and stay connected at the same time. So this is the essence of this section. It's not a list to memorize, but it's a way of seeing, of learning how to recognize Krishna through what already captures your attention. And this is going to bring us to the last 4 verses of the section. We're almost done here. And this is just kind of like a summary of where we've been already. So Krishna zooms all the way out. He says, I'm the generating seed of existences. Now we're in verse 39. Okay, everything moving or non-moving comes from me and depends on me, he says. So this is the shift. We're not just seeing Krishna and the special things that he just pointed out in the last section, but understanding that he's the source and the sustainer of everything. Nothing exists independently. And then he reminds us, there's no end to my manifestations. He shared all these examples. He's saying, but these are just a glimpse, and they're not meant to limit me. He says they're meant to teach a principle. Whenever something attracts us, beauty, power, brilliance, this comes from me. Understand that this comes from me. So this practice is learning to see that connection in our own lives. And then Krishna brings it into focus. This is 41. This is like the mic shell verse, or the mic drop verse. The mic drop verse of the chapter, a very popular one. Many of you have heard it. Anything beautiful, power, or glorious is just a spark of my splendor, he says. So instead of chasing all the sparks, learn to trace it back to the source. It's not that the things we're attracted to, it's not that they're wrong, but they're just incomplete. And they're just going to always leave us feeling a little bit empty-handed. Our heart is just not going to be completely full from these things. We should understand that we should see these things as pointing us towards something greater. And in that, our heart becomes full. And then finally, Krishna simplifies everything. The last verse of the chapter, he says, what's the need for all this detail? With just one fragment of myself, I sustain the entire universe. So the takeaway here is don't get lost in all the examples that I gave you. Just understand that everything's resting on me. It's resting on him. And when that really lands, it changes how we see everything. So he's giving us kind of this cheat code of how to get this loop going. This loop of realization, devotion, illumination. And that is that we start to see as we go about our lives, we start to see everything as connected to him. And this is really going to fuel the loop. It's going to help fuel the loop. Ultimately, he's fueling the loop, but it's going to be like, the on button that makes it conducive to function. When we can start seeing things around us as connected to God, God will step in and make that loop just light up your heart. So that's where this chapter is taking us. If we step back and look at the whole chapter, we see what Krishna's doing. He's not just giving us information, he's reshaping how we see. And he does this, he starts by helping us understand who he is, the source of everything. And then he shows us how that understanding leads to devotion, how devotion deepens into connection, and how that connection brings guidance and clarity from within. And then Arjuna responds. He asks, okay, I hear this, I believe you, but how do I stay connected in real life? And then Krishna answers that in a very practical way. He doesn't remove us from the world. He teaches us how to see differently within it. How to recognize him through what is already capturing our attention. He's transforming our vision. And then in the final verses, he brings it all back to something very simple. He says, everything's coming from me. Everything is sustained by me. Everything is connected to me. And this is really the takeaway. And the chapter is not asking us to change everything about our lives overnight. It's just asking us to shift our vision, to start noticing, to start connecting, to take what we're already experiencing and let it point us back to something deeper. Because when this shift begins, the devotion doesn't feel forced. It just becomes natural. The loop just starts working on its own. Not on its own. It's Krishna powered, but and over time, it just will change everything. As you move through your day, you don't have to look for something new. You just start with what's already there, what's already capturing your attention, what's already drawing you in. whatever you're appreciating, you just stop and understand, what is this pointing me to? And let this become your practice. And from there, everything begins to connect. So it's simple. It's a simple process. It's hard to do. But at the end of the day, what he's telling us to do, it's we stay in our lives, we do what we're doing, but we reframe our consciousness around it, our relationship with it. And this in itself will enable Krishna to come in and illuminate our hearts. So this is chapter 10. I apologize for my technical difficulties. Do we have any final reflections before we want to go here?
I feel liberated from my need to understand.
That's really good. Thank you.
I have a little one. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Also coming up in the last few days was nice reminders to like always keep our amazement and our wow of everything, and how Krishna is behind all of that and is everything. And I feel like this chapter just really solidifies that, like, thinking about all of the greatest of everything, but then the real wow is that it really just one little spark sustains the whole universe. Yeah, and that's just so important and really helps our relationship with him and our relationships to stay amazed, and that leads to gratitude. And so just wanted to share that.
Yeah, beautiful. Even to combine what you guys kind of said, like, we don't have to understand everything. We just have to start making little changes in our life, just and little changes, even just reframing how we see things in our worlds. We don't even have to change on the outside. It can look the exact same, but on the inside, start to deepen your perceptions of what you're attracted to. Yeah. Thank you. So nice. Anybody else?
Want to talk about your retreat?
I can talk about a retreat. I think we still have a couple spaces. I think this weekend is the deadline to register, though, for the women's retreat at New Vrindavan, April 16th through the 19th. Please join us. All of the proceeds go to support the widows in Vrindavan, India. And then we have a women's retreat in Guatemala at this really spiritual lake. That's going to be beautiful. We're going to do all kinds of things like weaving and yoga and kirtan and sound baths and fire circles and all the things right there on the lake. And the last one is pilgrimage. I haven't officially launched it, but it's going to be at the end of February 2027. And we're going to go to Rishikesh. The Kirtan Festival will be going on at that time. We'll start in Rishikesh. We'll go to Jaipur, which is like this beautiful Rajasthan city. We're staying in this amazing hotel too. It's like an old palace. It will blow your mind. But it's very devotional also, this city. And then Govardhan. So that's the progression. I think it's the 12th through the 24th. And that will be, message me for more details. But I'm keeping all these things super affordable. So if you're interested in any of them, message me. And I'm working on getting a website up. So stay tuned for that, and things will become much easier to keep track of. But yeah, those are the things. Thank you, Kay. Anybody else before we leave here? Yeah, it's nice to see you, Martine. Okay, well, thank you all for coming. Thank you for being patient with my technology issues. And I will see you all Monday.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. So great.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Happy